I don't know. It's hard to say. Again, in some ways it's a long way to 2035. It's 10 years, 11 years, but that's only a couple of product cycles away. The performance of EVs in the marketplace will also be driven by their performance on the road and their speed of charging and their operating costs and their acquisition costs and all that sort of thing.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Parts Talk. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate each and every one of you. Now, the Canadian International Auto Show came to an exciting end. And why I say exciting is because that the last 2 years have been lackluster due in part to COVID-19 and the lockdowns. Nevertheless, people were out there in their numbers and car enthusiasts were very ecstatic to see their favorite or dream vehicle on display. But while all this was going on, let's not forget that come 2035, there will be a drastic shift in the vehicles that will be on display as the government Zero Emission Mandate draws near. Now today we will look at several reasons why the EV mandate will cost taxpayers billions of dollars or still continue to do so. But before we jump into this feature, please hit that subscribe button for more content and hit that like button if you appreciate what you're seeing and hearing. Let's begin.
There will be some bumps along the road, and we're certainly experiencing one right now.
The market for electric vehicles may be low on juice. Within the last year, we've seen a pair of major surveys from both Auto Trader and JD Power, each showing an over 10% drop in demand. And according to the North American Dealers Association, availability of EVs is outstripping demand, resulting in ballooning inventories. That sentiment plenty visible at the Canadian International Auto Show, with lots coming to check out the latest EVs.
Electronic cars as well too. I'm looking to see those as well.
But then also comments like this.
There's something a little sterile about that driving experience, I find.
EVs cost more, and interest rates are high right now. And we're, coming off a significant recession.
Peter Fries is the Associate Dean of Engineering for Professional Programs with the University of Windsor. He founded Canada's first program in automotive engineering 25 years ago and says there are some bumps in the road.
The other thing is charging infrastructure availability.
Are we in a situation where auto companies will have thrown themselves at it and nobody wants to buy, or can the auto companies make adjustments?
The auto companies are pretty good at responding to the marketplace and making sure that they have products on offer which are desired by consumers.
Is there a risk for plants that were retooled, nice and early with the help of government funding?
But let me pause a little bit here. We're doing a reaction, so I'm going to stop every now and then. It's just that the auto industry is a cycle, as I mentioned in previous videos back. He mentioned about the charging infrastructure, and this has to be done with overall infrastructure at hand, and implementing an EV mandate requires a massive overall infrastructure, including the installation of charging stations nationwide. The auto industry and the manufacturers usually respond to what goes on in the market. And if you remember what went on back in the 1970s, when the auto industry itself was dying because Toyota was coming in with far cheaper vehicle, far more reliable vehicle, and what people actually wanted. So here we go again with another cycle. Taxpayers are going to foot the bill for these costly endeavors, which estimates suggesting that the construction of charging infrastructure alone could cost billions of dollars. And this burden falls squarely on the shoulders of taxpayers, who may question the fairness of subsidizing an initiative that primarily only benefit EV owners. Let's continue.
That if it takes a while for that demand to come back, that it could kill a plant.
I doubt that would ever happen. They wouldn't walk away from an investment on that scale.
So that push from the federal government to have all new cars sold being an electric vehicle by 2035, was that a little on the aggressive side, perhaps?
Well, I don't know. It's hard to say. Again, in some ways it's a long way to 2035. It's 10 years, 11 years. But that's only, a couple of product cycles away. The performance of EVs in the marketplace will also be driven by their performance on the road and their speed of charging and their operating costs and their acquisition costs and all that sort of thing. And those are becoming increasingly positive over time.
Now, those
All valid points, and that is why the data is very important, because we cannot forget the economic disruption that the automotive industry can cause. Mandating the widespread of adoption of electric vehicles can have far-reaching economic consequences that ultimately impact taxpayers. Again, the shift away from traditional gasoline-powered vehicles has led to thousands of people losing their jobs in the automotive industry over the last 2 years alone, resulting in decreasing tax revenues and increased reliance on government assistance. Everyone wants a bailout. Now, additionally, while EVs are cleaner and more environmentally friendly than traditional vehicles, their production still requires lots of resources and energy, which can have environmental implications. So taxpayers may bear the brunt of these economic disruptions and environmental costs through higher taxes or reduced public services.
Developments haven't been without controversy, from the fine details of implementation to how much public money has been spent. There are also the criticisms that EV manufacturing employs fewer people and that consumer subsidies encourage buyers to choose products made overseas.
At the end of the day, you want a piece of the manufacturing pie. In terms of generating a workforce here, are we looking good, or are there concerns that you have?
As long as the assembly plants remain in Canada, and I don't see that changing because it's a very good environment. We're a very good environment for auto assembly. I think that we will continue to be an auto parts powerhouse. The battery plants, which are coming into Canada and being built now, are very important for the future of the assembly plants in Canada. And believe me, these battery plants are 50 and 60-year investments. And in 50 or 60 assembly plants, we'll still have the auto parts factories, and people will be buying electric vehicles that are made in our country as opposed to made in somebody else's country. And that's what will be important. If we did not make those investments in the battery plants, I think I could see the exit of the auto industry from Canada within a decade or so. And that would be an absolute disaster. I said to a federal minister one time, if you think Newfoundland looks bad without fish, you should see what Southern Ontario would look like without the auto industry.
Just like any transition to a new technology, there will be ups and downs.
Meanwhile, Brian Kingston is the president of the Canadian Vehicle Manufacturers Association. He agrees car makers will weather the slump in EV demand, but says globally the CVMA estimates about 360 new mines will be needed by 2035 to supply demand for minerals needed to make EV batteries. And adds Canada is not well positioned to benefit.
No, in short. We have every mineral required that goes into battery electric vehicles. This is one of the biggest economic opportunities facing Canada. The challenge is we can't get them out of the ground. So we need infrastructure built into northern parts of Canada and remote areas where these minerals are found. On top of that, we have to accelerate our permitting process. If we want companies to invest here, they need to know that they can get a mining approval relatively quickly so that we can compete with other regions of the world.
For 2035 to be the year when all the new vehicles are going to be electric, would you like to see that be a little more relaxed?
Yeah, the federal government has taken the wrong approach in our view with respect to a mandate. What they're doing is dictating the vehicles that Canadians can and can't buy. That is not the right approach. We need to help Canadians make the switch, not force them. And the best way to do that is focus on those measures that will boost demand, increase the incentives available to Canadians, build out the charging infrastructure.
In Oakville, Ontario, David Zura, City News.
And that's why we have the subsidies and incentives, because government that sign on the Zero Emission Mandate often offer subsidies and incentives to encourage the adoption of electric vehicles, ranging from tax credits to rebates for EV owners. And while these incentives may initially seem like a win-win for consumers and the environment, they come at a steep cost to taxpayers. And in some cases, the total amount of subsidies and incentives provided to EV owners can add up to millions or even billions of dollars, draining public coffers and raising concerns about fiscal responsibility. So what you're seeing here, we're eroding the environment to save the environment. Because let's not forget that all these battery plants he spoke about are subsidized again by taxpayers. And let's talk about the city of Edmonton trying to recoup over $80 million in losses after they went headfirst replacing their entire fleet of diesel buses with electric buses and then using a lawsuit to cover up their incompetence. That's what I'm seeing from a business standpoint. And instead of going with a pilot project and testing several makes or manufacturers, just a small portion of their fleet, the same has to be said about school buses in Prince Edward Island, plus several stories of e-buses catching fire in several states and several countries across the Western Hemisphere. Not seeing any on the east side. It's just all those countries that signed up for the EV mandate. Now, Mercedes halted the brakes on EV manufacturing as the losses were too much to bear. Car sales are dependent on disposable income, not basic income, not cost of living income, but solely from savings, but rather the fact that someone has the freedom to afford basic transportation to get around and to care for their family. Let's take a look at this.
Mercedes-Benz has seen electric vehicle demand slow down. On Thursday, the auto giant became the latest car maker to warn of a lower than expected appetite for battery-powered cars. The company now expects sales of EVs to make up around half of its total by 2030. Thursday's announcement was a major step back from its previous ambition to prepare for all-electric sales by that year. Mercedes-Benz further said it would update its combustion engine lineup well into the next decade. Company CEO Ola Kalanius.
A systemic shift the size of this, changing the whole, let's say, energy infrastructure behind mobility is a very, very big task. So we have to realize that there can be peaks and troughs in this transition.
Multiple studies have shown customers holding back from EVs for a range of reasons. Those included a lack of charging infrastructure and appealing electric models. Mercedes-Benz reported group earnings fell to $21.3 billion, down from a year before, despite a 2% rise in revenue. Despite that, shares were up for the luxury car maker 6% following the update. The rise was supported by a $3.3 billion share buyback program unveiled late on Wednesday.
And the buyback program is just a way of inflating the numbers so that the shareholders can benefit from all of this. And the government continues to throw money at this because it's not theirs. They just go into power, go into these various positions, see the vast bank accounts that are there from our taxpayers, and then just throw decisions at it left, right, and center without thinking. And to think that the WEF released last year has analytical thinking, creative thinking, and resilience and flexibility and agility as the top 3 skills needed in 2023 and going forward. There is no worse tyranny than to force a man to pay for what he does not want, merely because you would think it would be good for him. And that's a quote from Robert A. Heinlein. What else can you add? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Remember to grab a copy of my ebook, The Parts Manager Guide. Please smash that like button on your way out. It'll only take you 1.5 seconds to do so. Until next time.